Well, I'm out here finally, a week after I intended to, uh, organizing my toolbox. And my quarter-inch drive game is just fine. It's on fleek. My 3/8 is working good. We're okay. Here's the rest of the 3/8. Now I'm starting on my 1/2 inch, and I got to thinking about this totally untrue story that didn't happen. The end of '82, the beginning, the end of '81, the beginning of '82. It was right around the new year, either a little before or a little after, if this story was true. And I was driving a 1977 Transstar 2 cab over with a 290 Cummins and a 10-speed Road Ranger. I can't remember what the rears were. Back then, I didn't care so much about the rears. I compared to... Back then, you had a little choice. There was Cummins, there was Detroit, and there was 4 1/4 Cat. That was the epitome, the creme de la creme of engines. But since I was a company driver back then, you drove what they gave you, and it was a 290 Cummins. They called it a shiny 290. And back then, they didn't call them Cummins, they called them come-aparts. So anyway, this didn't happen at one of the most dangerous truck stops on the eastern seaboard at the time. And that's all I ran back then, was up and down the East Coast. Miami, New York City, Boston, up into Maine, and all cities in between. And this particular story didn't happen in Atlanta. At one of the worst, most dangerous truck stops on the eastern seaboard, there was only one that was more dangerous, and that was the Sandman truck stop in New Jersey. I think it was exit 7, and it's no longer there. I believe there's a Petro there now. So I was exhausted, and I pulled into the Big A truck stop. I believe it was a 76 truck stop, but they called it the Big A because it was in Atlanta. Now remember, this is a completely fictitious story, and it never happened. I'll probably say that several times. So in those days, the back row of pretty much every truck stop, unless you were a partier or wanted to partake of the coin-operated ladies, you stayed away from the back row. But this particular night, I got there late, and there was one spot available, and it was in the back row. And I knew I was going to be in for a loud night, because on the back row, the coin-operated ladies would knock on your door all night long, wouldn't leave you alone. You might get an hour or two of sleep, and then have to tell them no thank you, and then get another hour, and it was just nonstop. So if you really wanted to sleep, you avoided the back row. And they called it Party Row back in those days. So I back into this spot, and I'm sitting in my seat, winding down, smoking the night's last cigarette. That would be a good song. And just looking out over the crazy stuff going on. There's just enough light to see, people in shadows, but not faces. And across the way from me, the line of trucks across the way from me, the guy opens his door, and he climbs down out of his truck. And everybody had cab overs back in those days, so it was a lot more effort. You just didn't step down out of your truck. You had to climb down out of it. And this guy climbs down out of his truck and, straightens up a little bit, closes his door, locks it. And just as he's putting his keys in his pocket and starting to walk away, somebody, if this were a true story, steps out from underneath his trailer. And I'm watching this, and there's just enough light to see that I'm fixing to watch a robbery take place. And when I say robbery, back in them days, man, if you didn't give up your goods, they'd shoot you. I always carried a fake wallet. I carried a fake wallet with some library cards and a few dollar bills in it. And that was in my back pocket, and I carried my real wallet in my front pocket. And anyway, I knew I was fixing to watch a robbery. Well, the guy turns around, puts his hands up, and the guy clearly has what the silhouette appears to be a gun. Again, it's mostly not shadows, but you can't make out clearly face. You couldn't pick anybody out in a lineup. That's how it was, just bright enough to see things happen, but not bright enough to put your hand on a Bible and swear to anything. And that might have been by design, who knows. So this guy's fumbling around for his wallet, and he reaches back and he picks his wallet out of his back pocket and he holds it out to the guy and he drops it. And the guy bends over to pick it up, and when he bends over to pick it up, he reaches into his jacket and he pulls out a revolver, big. And the reason I knew it was big is because when it went off, it was a cannon. And I think back in those days, 44 Magnum was pretty much the big gun. And that guy, man, he staggered back and took 2 steps and fell like a leaf. The guy put his gun back in his holster in his jacket, and he turned around and he was looking in windows to see who, if anybody, saw what happened. And he sees me sitting in my seat, still smoking my last cigarette. And he points at me, and he puts his fingers to his lips. And I put my hands up like I saw nothing. And he climbs up in his truck, puts it in gear, and he takes off. And as he's taking off, the guy who tried to rob him, who was now probably halfway to wherever his soul was headed, his legs are still under the guy's truck. As he takes off, he runs over the guy's truck. The final kick in the face, you know. Don't get me wrong. I think a thief getting shot in the face is the perfect thing. Every thief deserves that. So he drove over him, and I sat there shaking. You know, I was 21 or 22, if this story were true. And as soon as I calmed down enough, I put it in gear, and I got on the interstate, and I never went back to that truck stop. Yep, in those days, it was Mad Max, the Wild West. I mean, it was a dangerous world back then, and it's still a dangerous world, but there's a lot more security and cameras and people, you know, security guards riding around on golf carts and things of that nature. But in those days, man, you were on your own. Oh, there was another truck stop. It was in New Haven, Connecticut. It was called, well, there was 2. There was the Secondi Brothers and the Mayflower, and they were right next to each other. And it was the same thing. It was Mad Max. It was just what you would imagine a Mad Max scenario would be, Barter Town, that kind of thing. Yeah, trucking was a dangerous world. Even just driving was a dangerous world. But boy, even at night, when you had a right to expect some safety and quiet and peace and a good night's sleep, you couldn't get it at most truck stops. Okay, that's my story. That isn't true. All right, there's my half inch. I'm not doing too good on metric. I got my SAE is fine, but I'm missing a couple of metrics, and I have no metric impact, so I need to fix that. Oh, I just Googled this Black Hawk. Amazon sells these for $183. I had no idea these things were worth that much money. This was in the shop when I bought this place here. That was in here. Okay, now I'm going to start working on my air tools, getting them set up right. All right, that's it for today. I still got a whole bunch of files and stuff and hacksaws and just odds and ends I got to find sensible drawers for. You know what I do not have? A 3/8 air ratchet. There's a 1/2 inch. Or is that? You know what? That is my 3/8. Let me see if I can get this off. Yes. Okay, that's my 3/8. All right. I'm going to leave that in there. But what I don't have, I have a 1/2 inch impact. I don't have a 3/8 impact, and I'm going to get one. But long after Christmas. Okay. Let's go to the house.